Alrighty lads, we are back with some lore, this time Kingdoms of Oblivion, a rather interesting medieval setting. And here we're going to start talking about the neutral faction, the one faction that really has no skin in the game, but yet you might see them wandering around, you may even hire them as mercenaries. That will be the Krakator. Now, before we begin, just know that I created this work, and it's going to be a game that I'm going to more or less flesh out. As such, since I'm creating it, I don't have much artwork available, and since this is a neutral faction, I'm not too concerned about how much artwork I really have. I just want there to be a little bit of an idea behind it. So, without further ado, those that live in a Krakator. Far in the southeast, where the sun beats down with neither a hint of green leaves nor a drop of water in sight, there resides a massive crater, the size of which has baffled modern scholars of this day. For you see, the crater has formed a perfect hole with one entrance to it, and the Earth's crust is raised on high, forming a natural impenetrable walls that not even 1,000 fire mages could blow down. The crust of the Earth rises so high that the clouds are actually trapped inside it, forming its own ecosystem that few have had the privilege of seeing. With its own ecosystem and weather, this has caused a great lushness to the land of the crater. For outside, the crater is an inhospitable wasteland. Yet, inside the crater speaks of a different tale. Here we witness mushroom trees and mushroom shrub farms, where the mushroom trees grow the size of oaks. With the shrubs growing in such bushels, the farmers must collect the bountiful harvest twice a month. Such large size and plentiful harvests have led to an intensely meaty mushroom diet among the dwellers who live there. Not to brag further, but the land itself has a secret bounty that was worth far more than any gold could buy. Natural springs. Indeed, the crater is deep enough that it has revealed the greatest treasure this desert wasteland could have ever found. A clean, unending source of water. This is where the isolated species known as the Krakatorans live. Not in a deep hole, no. Instead, inside a massive metropolis, guarded well by the natural formation and by erecting an equally tall gate of snow-white stone. This is its only entryway. The Krakatorans suffer neither invasion nor intruder. Yet, how did they come into existence? Many scholars have pondered far and wide, for the only answer lies with the Krakatorans themselves. Yet the stories they tell is one a little too far-fetched to believe, for the story they spin simply states that they are mystical people God has chosen, and that they are blessed beyond measure, a simple fact that others retort and deny. So, the Great Impact. A millennia ago, when man was dwelling in caves unlocking the secrets of iron, when dwarves saw greeneries on their mountains, when elves made the discovery of nature's magic, deep in the North Tundra lied the Krakatorans. At first glance, they looked like simple-minded hogs, not too different than orcs. Few would notice that, unlike orcs, these people had gray skin tones ranging from gray-white to pearl-black. Their pupils being horizontal, oblong shape, sporting tusks that don't come out of their mouths but instead pierce through their cheekbones, curling upwards forming a chisel at the tip of their tusk. These people survived where others struggled simply by using their gifts. With the horizontal pupils, they could see at a wider range and use their chisel tusk to scrape the tree trunks, allowing the delicious honey-flavored sap or the plentiful birch water to guzzle into their mouths. The humans that migrated to this region had cave markings and bone fragments, showing that they actually hunted the Krakatorans regularly. In fact, it got to the point where the only way to survive in the harsh winters was solely to dine on these hog people. As simple tribes formed and hunting packs of humans plagued the lands, the Krakatorans were losing. Every day they went out in groups of 6 to forage for waters from trees. Only 4 would return. Every time they were picked off, the human tribes grew more and more, migrating from the southern lands to join the feast of such an easy prey. While the Krakatorans were naturals at carving wood with their tusk into building materials, they were not equipped to deal with flint-tipped arrows and early primitive iron armorings. Dealing with a technological and numerical disadvantage, the Krakatorans sought their gods with peace offerings, hoping that the deities would wipe away their enemies. The Krakatorans previously were animists, believing in the spirits of the trees, the spirits of the animals that modern scholars claim are akin to the elven and primitive human pantheons. Trees and dirt are usually the mother god of the pantheon, while the bear and wolf are warrior gods. Birds, the gods of adventure, the fish being the spirits of destiny. This junction in history is muddled, as no archaeological findings depict Krakatorans migrating, as no evidence is left of remains or symbols. But the Krakatorans have a story that is, in their belief, central to the understanding of their people. Here we see the story of the great shaman Yolkurdin. Desperate to find salvation for his people, he enacted a desperate ploy. "Bring all the food we have and burn it. Bring our wood too. If we are desperate enough, the gods will answer." The entire tribe went to work, and at night the great Yolkurdin stood atop of a pile of their reserves and set it on fire by brushing a piece of flint with his tusk. Yet the Krakatorans began their ritual worship, dancing around the night fire, shouting at the mighty totem of the tree mother. None of their gods answered. It is when that they were tiring, turning their backs on the flame, that a blazing red erupted from the sky. Gazing upwards, they noticed that a star had changed color from pearlescent blue to now orange hot. And more astonishing yet, it was moving. Krakatorans had no idea what they were looking at, but one thing is for certain. They saw it zip past the sky. Yolkurdin held up his staff and gave the entire tribe one interpretation of these events. The only interpretation that could be gleaned. "Follow God," the shaman spoke with authority and fear. Marching out, the tribe left behind everything. No food, no shelter, only faith to protect them from the elements and the roaming human hunting parties. They set out in the blizzards and tundra, heading south, following the blazing trail of the orange star. According to the Krakatorans, this took over 40 years, and in that, the shaman Yolkurdin created 40 lessons for his flock to follow, as he unlocked deeper understanding with this new god. Many modern scholars debate this, as the journey from even the farthest north to the deepest south should only take 8 months' time. Yet despite the protests, the truth remains: the Krakatorans exist inside the world's largest crater. Some of these lessons curated include methods of tusk cleaning to keep sand out of the orifice. As such, people wash their face 5 times a day. Other lessons involve pursuing a single path of life. To them, walking down a road leads further progress than to switch or walk alongside multiple paths simultaneously. As such, while the Krakatorans are not up to human standards of intelligence, they make up for it with extreme dedication of study in a single field, easily outstripping other species in their dedicated craft. In the legend, Yolkurdin wrote in his tusk-chiseled bark tablets that the sun grew dark, that the sky was gray for many, many months, with blazing ash storms that followed, some of the ash storms being so hot that the shaman witnessed his own people cooking alive, deeming them unworthy for the migration. He led his people back to see why their faith had dwindled, to burn before the trial of salvation, leading the development of his 40 lessons. And after 40 years, the gray sky with blazing ash storms stopped. It halted. Approaching the path once considered fatal, they uncovered no more blazing heat and no ash storms halting their way. As the story goes on, the journey was now filled with ease. The migrating tribe was filled with validation in their beliefs of this new star god. Marching onwards, they did not deviate from their path. Despite the roving orc bands, the desperate human hunters, the warlust dark elves, none could stop their charge. Until finally they found him. God. Upon seeing the charred landscape, the Krakatorans uttered the first name of the word, Krakator, later adopted by humans as the word crater. Venturing forth, half-starved and drier than a husk, the Krakatorans found no evidence of the rock that had caused the impact. Instead, they found lush mushroom forest with natural spring water gushing out of the wound in the earth. The tribe rejoiced, and it was on this day, when the night sky took over the world, Jokerdin pointed up at the circle the crater had made in the sky. "These are the stars of Katak. He will write us his message from the sky, in this sky alone." As such, when divining the stars, they do not see the entire night sky, but only a simple view of their own individual slice of heaven, which is whatever stars are visible directly above their crater. The domain that came. From henceforth, the Krakatorans took up their name. Erecting a wall to protect themselves from outsiders, the Krakatorans have a deep belief that if Katak, their god, wanted them to live elsewhere, he would simply make another crater. Their religion is known as planarism, where the star priests study the night sky, divining potential futures and developing deep ties that the stars of one's birth heavily affect the struggles their life will face. Each month has its own set of stars, and each Krakatoran born must be branded on the neck with their astrological sign, as they believe that these runes that Katak has given them, each sign is a strength that the child will need in times of hardship. As such, whenever a Krakatoran is stressed or anxious or in a peculiar situation, they usually rub their neck where the symbol was branded, trying to get strength from the rune of Katak. In Krakatoran society, it is viewed as disgusting, disgraceful, even sinful to be fickle-minded. In their minds, it's better to be consistently dedicated to one goal, one pursuit, one career, your whole life. For to them, when you split your path, all you do is lessen the greatness you could have achieved. They even equate this to their god, on how he provided them with a small focused set of stars to study, rather than the entire night sky. As such, the Krakatorans hold pitiful views of the other races, thinking that the lesser races are simply lost, because they follow too many paths with no focus to guide them. This line of logic has been debated in the past by a scholar, Fluctuous III of Arc, who said, "To look at a single leaf and judge the whole tree is a glass made of arrogance that is filled to the brim with arrogance." Upon which, he was retorted by star priest Uli, "When reading a letter, you do not look upon the sides nor the edges. You focus on the center where the words are written, as do we. For our God has written in this spot of the sky, we are blessed to not be misled by the parchment he has chiseled on." The star priests of Katak are dedicated to every aspect of Krakatoran society, maintaining its traditions, enforcing laws, and even regulating trade. Those in the societal aspects of life, where they preach traditional values and provide education to the youth, are known simply as star priests. Those that are in the law department, usually sporting a club with armor hidden underneath their robes, these are known as starakars. Those in trade are simply known to outsiders as merchants, but to the Krakatorans inside the wall, they call them commercers. Commercers' main goal in life is to procure trade deals where they sell abundant iron and mushroom in exchange for highly sought-after leather and furs, as the crater they live in had no wildlife. Furs are typically associated with wealth in the society due to its rareness. Despite all the roles they lead, the temple does not hold any government positions. They serve simply as advisors and reminders to the people that, diverging from the path of Jokerdin, can hold. The head priest of the temple is usually known as Stargazer, for they sit in the highest temple and stare out with their instruments of far sight to glean the hidden messages of secrets far away stars to determine their god's truth. The government of the Krakatorans is led by an elective monarchy. The king or queen is usually determined by their skill in their respective field and achievements in life. In order to qualify, you must become the highest ranked individual in the field that you're in, and must have achieved something that has benefited society as a whole. Once a candidate, you are voted in by the people. As such, this leads to few candidates and allows a nation to breed a large diversity of rulers, with unique goals and advancements. 3 times in a row, the elected monarchs were all mushroom farmers, resulting in such a heavy focus on agriculture that the government discovered new technologies of fertilizing mushroom to cause an overflow of produce. As such, once a month, the government throws over the wall wagons, absolute bushels full of mushroom food, due to crowding and storaging. As such, many peasants of other species have grown shanty towns around the crater, asking to be let in, only to be denied, as the deniers drop free nutritious food on top of them. This has caused some confusion and wonder among the populace of beggars, that it causes them to go insane thinking that the utopia that lays in the walls, for they're literally throwing away food. Some leaders elected have caused issues in the past, as totally dedicated to their fields, many neglect the other aspects of their nation. One example is Krakator the stonemason, who was the best stonemason the world ever saw. When elected, he dedicated his whole life to improving the tools of the trade. While successful, and now his people are able to fashion stone with butter, like butter on bread, the issue with his rule was the complete neglect of the plague that had hit the city. And when city officials asked him about his concern as king of the plague, he said, "I am a craftsman, go elect a doctor next time," as he shooed away his people from the stone statue he was making. To protect the city, the nation has its military, each man dedicated to their craft of warfare and protection. As such, some of the most elite fighters in the world belong to the Krakatorans, for they fight for life, with every day spent studying new ways of fighting. The gear they use to fight is usually a 50 to a 100-pound helmet made of pure, heavy steel metal, with a large spike on top of the cranium, and some sharpened, piercing tusk coverings. The rest of the body is in chainmail and cloth, with their arms on either a concave shield with a spear or a solid, sharpened javelin. The helmets are designed to be extraordinarily tough on the warrior's neck, and thankfully for this species, they use their neck regularly to chisel trees and dirt. As such, they have hulking neck muscles. With such strength, the Krakatorans are easily able to charge headfirst, skewering anybody in their path while flinging a full-grown man with a simple head nod. If killed, the Krakatoran gear is so alien that most species have no use for the equipment at all. So far, the only ones who found use for it are the orcs, who take those heavy 100-pound helmets and they tie them to clubs, forming some sort of heavily spiked hammer. When fighting, the Krakatorans set up a concave shield wall with spears pointed forward. The concave of the shield allows arrows to slide off and gives the user the ability to dig the shield into the dirt, using their head against it to prop it up as an immovable object, should they ever get overwhelmed. This formation is supported further by astromancer mages who've spent their entire life studying the magic of the stars, who provide comet rain to smash opponents and stellar synthesis to interweave the magic of the stars into one's physical body to heal it. Further support comes from the javelin men, who sport 5-foot-long javelins of pure solid steel. These massive rods are capable of destroying any knight and their horse in one single throw. As such, it is recommended to steer clear of their short range. With a limited roster, many nations have deemed the Krakatorans as weak, yet many times they failed in their pursuit to conquer them. As it stands, the only thing that's preventing the Krakatorans from leaving their homeland is simply their belief that if their god, Katak, wanted them to, he would just rain more meteors upon the world. A zealous sect of their faith has been growing in recent years as the wars with other races have risen. This sect is known as the Krakatora, Og, translates to Children of Katak's Spear. These people believe that they must spill the lesser species' blood in open combat and then burn their bodies in the moonlight to bolster Katak's power. Until then, he'll be able to rain meteors on every city of every species. The Krakatorans, who are not of this group's view, they view them as insane and have thrown them out of the city, deeming them as breaking away from the path of Yolkerdin. One general was interviewed by a scholar, and when asked why they were kicking out their own people, he simply had this: "We can't allow these supremacists to break our path, so we kick them out to be with the lesser species and to be their problem." Upon this, the interviewer was kicked out, as the general didn't specify that the interviewer had only one question. These roving bands of supremacists can't be hired, but they only accept deals begrudgingly, with the idea of turning against their employer at a later point in time. Some do bear children and procreate in the harsh outer world, but those born outside are deemed allowed into the nation of Krakator once more if they reject their family. Most of the time, these bands are mistaken for orcs by the uneducated masses, and as such are treated as stupid gray fiends, when reality is, these men and women are far more educated than the average human due to their focus on a particular field that they set their life on. As it stands, the band of roaming Turakata Org refuse to settle into a tribe or dwelling as they await for Katak to land a meteor from his domain for them to live in. Yet the threat remains that these deranged supremacists exist solely for the extinction of all races. It is becoming an issue as of late for refugees and roaming mercenary bands to be beset upon by Krakatorans. So the growth and cycle of these people. A hotly researched subject, many scholars of the human realms desire to classify the species as simply a cousin species of the orcs. After all, in appearance they share hoglike qualities. Yet the growth cycle and physical difference are so vastly different that it would be like saying a platypus is a duck. Here we have a researched excerpt from Inquisitor Stencil of Theocratia. I have been charged with the summarization and execution of finding distinctions and weaknesses that plague these blasphemous creatures. As directed unto me by our holiness, I, the vessel of this study, shall conduct a thorough, pious observation. Should any of these contents in this document be leaked, it could be disastrous to the relations. As such, I am to summarily execute all specimens obtained and read them their last rites, as bestowed upon me as a member of his name. Starting with birth, the orcs give birth to a litter at a time, in which the majority are males. Yet the Krakatorans give birth to a single babe. From here the differences grow. While a Krakatoran babe has some autonomy, able to walk as soon as it's born, the orc babies are nearly fully autonomous, fighting for the milk amongst themselves and resulting in some even eating their siblings. Side note, Krakatorans when born are not with a full set of teeth and tusks like the orcs are. Side note, unlike orc women who possess nearly identical figure to the orc males, a Krakatoran woman is easily distinguishable from their single pair of breasts and slender features. Still hoggish with tusk, but weaker in all senses, as befitting of a woman. Carrying onwards, the subject proceed to nurture their young wildly differently. The orcs tend to ignore their children, yet remain hostile to any who dare present a harm to them. The Krakatorans are much like our blessed selves in that they nurture their young, showing them, much like all animals do, how to utilize their natural capabilities. As the Krakatoran child grows, it frequently wipes its cheeks and scratches the face. The mother seems to be hastily stopping this behavior. When interrogated why, she deems to respond with blasphemy. It is God's path. Side note, Her tusks were broken in this altercation, thereby may affect future results. Looking from hindsight, it may be that the tusks are a form of teething, and by the toddler rubbing its face, it could alter the formation/direction the tusks grow, which could be the reason for stopping the toddler. Other possibilities is their dim-wittedness. When handed water to drink, these fiends seem dull-minded enough to waste the clean water by rubbing their face 5 times a day in a ritual-like manner. This area needs further study. As children, the Krakatorans learned basic things: how to chisel with their beast-like qualities, how to speak, and how to play. It should be noted that while a child among human standards is any human by the age of 4, these beasts reach childhood at the age of 2. At this stage, the facial features of the child start showing 2 hills where the cheekbones are. Upon inspection, we discover that these are early tusk developments, where it protrudes from the gums and starts rubbing the mucus of the cheeks. At this age, the child seems to be encouraged by the mother to find a skill, any skill. Then the child is hastily chastised when developing any skills outside of the first one. This again needs insight into this being either a beast quality of theirs or a religious cultural standpoint. When interrogated again, the mother broke a guard's arm with a simple headbutt. We held rations for 5 days. Side note, she was covered in the guard's blood, but her eyes stay fixed on me for some extended time. Possible seduction, sorcery is at work. That could be why their species wear cloth linen over their bodies. At adolescence of age 10, the Krakatoran becomes more muscular in the neck region. Their muscles nearly triple in size. Upon testing, it's revealed that the child could headbutt a steel helmet with a small dent, but upon adolescence, the helmet cracked nearly in half. The adolescent stage seems to be the briefest, even compared to the toddler stage, as the adolescent stage lasts merely 1 year. In this time, the muscles grow, but the height stays the same. The tusks are rapidly developed, where they pierce out from the creature's face. This could be an indicator of achieving fertility or adulthood. As of now, we have separated the subjects, and further testing in fertility is covered. This will be my last finding, a finding so egregious that it will likely result in my imminent death. The Krakatorans are much like all species of the world. Humans can breed with them, but all potential offspring come out as non-human species. I couldn't stop staring back at the subject. She was inviting, yet strong. Nurturing, yet tough. She told me all would be fine as she bore our child into the world, at 4 months gestation. I released Yvonk. She and our son Stencil will attempt to flee. This will be my last time writing any more barbaric research on innocence. I am hereby resigning my position as Inquisitor of Theocratia. I have committed a grave sin of laying with the beasts of this world, and as such this research will have to conclude with my death. God bless Theocratia, God bless humanity. May God freeze my soul in 1,000 layers of hell for my sins. Suicide note that was found in a different handwriting than the research notes. Most species viewed the Krakatorans as simply bothersome, nuisance, too strong to die, too rich to bribe, and worse yet, too far away for any prolonged engagements. Any research into the species has been conducted on the outcast, or the roaming commercer that tries to negotiate trade, only to be routinely abducted. So let's talk about conflicts and wars that have happened, that are at least of note. Starting off, the 103rd Theocratian Crusade of Krakator. Most recent war that was engaged with the nation of Krakator, the Krakatorans had no idea that the war even happened, as the Holy Land of Theocratia purchased the design of dwarven engineering gone bad. A mortar that was so large it could lob a volley of explosives miles beyond the horizon. A feat that none could ever dream of. So the forces of Theocratia formed in the land of Hectics, fighting off constant attacks by the orcs as they built this massive artillery piece. When the device was built, after several months of warfare, the theocracy fired it. eagerly awaiting their bounty of finally breaching the crater city after 100 failed crusades. Only to their folly, the device self-exploded, wiping out half of the camp, thereby creating the new name of the region now called Mortar's Folly. When asked about the war, Theocratia denies the war ever happened. Some speculate out of humiliation, others think that it might be a scandal with the dwarves. Expedition Long Mile. The dwarves have always sought new ways of expanding their tunnels and oftentimes did work as miners for other nations, as no species can mine nearly as efficiently as they. Taking a contract with a mercenary band, the dwarves rode out under the Merc protection to mine a potential area deep in the desert lands of the orcs. Survey equipment showed that there could be many ore deposits deep under the mantle of the crust, in a region originally known as Orinal, a piece of land known for a long-forgotten ruined city that none know who its previous occupiers were. As the expedition began, things went smoothly. So smoothly that the mercenaries hired had only a hard time entertaining themselves, rather than fighting the ragtag groups of orcs patrolling the area. After a mere month of discovery, something was found out. A discovery that spelled disaster for the party. Digging in an abandoned mine shaft and expanding it beyond its original designs, the dwarves had uncovered a path leading into a totally different mine shaft of unknown make. The dwarves were intrigued and pressed onwards, fascinated by the structures and support beams that held this brand new mine together. As they carried onwards, they were spotted by gray tusked-faced beings. This sparked an alarm, as the party was assaulted by heavily armored pikes, followed by thick javelin throws that skewered most of the crew. As the mercenaries headed into the tunnel to save the miners, the last miner to live urged the mercenaries to destroy the shaft to save what was left of the men. Following instructions after taking severe casualties, the plan was a bust. The party left alive was captured by dark elves, found wandering in the waste, some of which are spies of Valedum, who found this information most interesting. The fifth shroud of Krakator. The vampires of Valedum desire all powers of the land to bend to their whims. That, of course, includes the isolated Krakatorans. After repeated failed attempts at besieging the city, the vampires attempted a new plan. Bringing soul-bonded liches, the vampires had a ritual conducted that shrouded the entire city in utter darkness. After 3 months-long siege of magical darkness, the vampires scryed in with their magic, gazing into the denizens of the city to peer into how the progress of their siege was going. To their shock and utter humiliation, the people were rejoicing. This darkness had caused such a boost in their mushroom farms that they had an extra surplus of mushroom lumber to build even more structures with. Even the priests were taking credit for this darkness, completely aloof that the city is actually being attacked by the dark arts. Valedum retreated, still bitterly sore about the embarrassment they suffered. Shivel King Ramont's War. Once Akuza attempted to claim lands of Hectics from the orcs. This war was going well. Shivel King Ramont's was a master organizer, able to coordinate the noble knight houses extremely effectively. The orcs were suffering cavalry charge after cavalry charge, and the orcs' hog riders were getting massacred by these heavy knights of Akuza. Finally, the chieftains of the local tribes came together and offered a roaming band of Krakatorans a large sum of gold in exchange for their aid. Taking the deal, the Krakatoran outcasts, they decided to form a solid spear wall deep inside the orc lines, where the blood of the orcs would disguise that the impending doom of the knights would fall into. After a single defeat, the multiple knight houses began bickering, and Shivel King Ramont started losing their support, as this was damaging to the noble knightly house's honor to suffer a single loss against such a weak foe. Leading one last charge, the knights became nervous, unwilling to charge into the thick horde of orc infantry. As such, the Yakuzan forces were being swarmed with the peasant infantry they brought falling in the hundreds, awaiting for their noble knights to follow the plan and charge down the swine. Suffering so much losses, the knights had to retreat, and Chival King Romance held a bitter grudge against the orcs for besmirching his honor by not dying. The Krakatorans, only helping in a single battle, were given the gold, and then were summarily attacked by the same tribes they helped. Only half of the outcasts survived the attack, but it was expected of the orcs. The fall of Aimdumond. While the war is extensive, with every faction in the world playing a part in its history, the largest surprise is finding the Krakatorans. A local heretic prophet outcast by the name of Krakator led the largest group of outcasts the Krakatorans had ever seen. Krakarton's goal in the war was simple. He viewed that as a sign from their god to start in the destruction of all cities in the world. Using his deep understanding of comets and the magic that his people have developed, he and his warband assaulted not just the city, as the walls were already laid in rubble, but the armies that fought in the cities as well. Hail of comets pummeled many, massacring the Theocratians and the Veildum forces as they battled in the lower sector of the cities. Unfortunately for Krakator and his people, they were being surrounded by the Ichnawa Dark Elves, who, in an act of desperation, released wild magics that they saw massive thunderbolts rain from the sky, shocking the Krakatoran spearmen, cooking them in their own armor as the electricity fried their heads. Krakator remained atop the rubble as his kin were falling all around him. Losing his spearmen with only javelin men and priests left alive to fight, they were being swarmed and cut down with relative ease. None know what happens to Krakator, though. As his last follower was cut down and the Dark Elves surrounded him, a ball of pure magic enveloped him, leaving nothing where he once stood. Krakator, having heard of this, has remained ever vigilant for the mysterious Krakator to suddenly reappear again. That has been the story of the Krakatorans. This has been a very long video because I read you guys the entire codex. The entire codex is free for you to read. Besides that, I hope to see you guys next time, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below what you think about our astromancy orc-like people. Besides that, this has been Free 700. See you guys next time.